Welcome to the VL, the official unofficial viewers lounge of DCP Survivor Moneta Bank. I'm Victoria.
And I'm Karen.
So we're now at the finale and we've concluded this exciting season. um I guess we knew that it was probably going to be a final two last time. Um, but yeah, I think if I were playing the game and I made it to final three and then they said there was a final two, I would be a bit disappointed.
Definitely, um, definitely would be very disappointed. I don't know. Final twos are, unless you win immunity, is completely out of your control, which is scary.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like with final two, it's kind of like whoever wins already knows who they want to vote out. So there's not as much room to keep yourself in the game compared to final four. Um, but yeah,
Right. I also think, yeah, that's like a stage in the game where, like you said, the person's kind of already made up their mind. So there's not really a lot you can say to change their mind at that point,
mhm.
usually.
So yeah, Carly has a confessional at the beginning and she says that it probably works out better that Evan didn't win the fire making last time. I'm just curious, like, say she does get to the end, do you think she could make the argument that like, oh, I purposely voted so that I could seem loyal? I guess like the jury would probably prefer that she had actually voted Evan out, but I'm not sure.
I think so, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's like kind of a lot.
Yeah. So yeah, the final immunity challenge is a jigsaw puzzle, and then after that, stacking cups with pencils. Um, Yeah, I feel like this challenge would be pretty good for me. Like, I think my chances would be relatively high compared to some other challenges. But yeah, Kayla ends up winning this challenge. So we have some confessionals. So Kayla is talking about how she won four individual immunities and she thinks she has Jabbar, Andy, and Kyle's vote. And she's not really sure if she will get Carly and Evan's votes if she votes out Carly. Um, I do think that based off of like watching the episode, her better move probably is what she ended up doing because I feel like if Carly was there, she could probably get some of her original tribe's votes.
I think so too, and I think as we saw, the jury didn't really seem to think that Kayla's social game was that great, but I think they did think Carly's was.
Yeah.
So that could have gotten her some votes in the end.
Yeah. So I think um she she made the right decision, but she is a bit concerned about this potential of like losing votes from Carly and Evan if she votes out Carly. Do you have any personal experience with like how to try to vote someone out so they can get so that you can still get their vote?
I think at final three, the best thing you can do to maybe try to get their vote is just to be honest with them. So, and explain your reasoning why. And you can do that in a way that is like complimenting them. You're saying, like, I think all these great things about you, which is why I have to vote you out. And people like to be flattered and hear nice things about themselves. So even though it's like, ah, they want to make it to the end, if you can flatter them in a believable way, like obviously not like go over the top on it and be honest, I think you can avoid hard feelings.
Yeah, I think that's the case. especially since like tribal council is kind of nerve-wracking in the first place.
Hmm.
Like if someone's nervous going into the final tribal council and then they see their name at the end of it and they're being voted out, like the negative feelings could carry over into the tribal council at the end. But like maybe if you're more honest, then they have more time to get used to the idea that they're
Mm,
not going to the end.
exactly. And not giving them like the false hope.
So yeah, there's this conversation with Kayla and Carly, and Carly is arguing that maybe Kayla would have a better chance against her, and Sam has other trajectories. And then Kayla says that she's worried that Carly will get more jury votes. Yeah, I'm not really sure what better pitch Carly could have made. Um, just because I feel like it's the right decision to vote her out. Um,
Exactly. Yeah.
Kayla and Sam are having a conversation, and Kayla tells him that she's leaning towards keeping him. And they talk about how Carly has relationships with Evan, Yap, and Simona. Um, and then there's a conversation between Carly and Sam. And Carly is explaining how it was difficult to vote for him in the previous tribal council. So yeah, in this conversation, I guess it's between two people who know that one of them's gonna go home. So I'm trying to think if there's anything that should be done in that type of conversation to like make sure the other person still votes for you. But maybe you could like try to make it sound like we're both in the same boat where it's like outside of our hands. And then maybe
Hmm.
when the other person gets voted out, they will identify with you a little more.
Mm. Yeah, maybe. Um, yeah, it's yeah, there's like not much you can do, but I agree with that.
So now we get to the final tribal, and Kayla wins an advantage, which is an extra jury vote that she has to give to someone, and she gives it to Kyle. Um, that was a good choice, I think, because I think Kyle was one of the people who was most logged in to vote for her. Um, do you think if do you think you would ever like take a risk with the extra jury vote and like give it to someone who you're like a little bit less sure about to hopefully make them vote for you because they would feel a little bad if they voted against you? Like I guess in a scenario where you're probably gonna where you might lose the game, like would you take that type of risk or still give it to someone you're sure about?
Uh, I would still give it to someone you're sure about because even though people will talk about like, I don't know, either taking risks or like taking the best to the end and all this stuff, at the end of the day, if you're trying to win the game, you you don't take the best to the end with you. Like there's, you know what I mean? And you don't, like at least I wouldn't risk giving the vote to somebody who could give two votes to my opponent. You want to do the most sure thing that you can in an uncertain game. So I think she definitely made the right choice on that, on giving it to Kyle.
Yeah. Um so yeah, Kayla um ta- goes first with her speech, and she talks about how she deserves to win the game, and then she fought every round and brings up her immunity challenge wins. And then she talks about her connection with Evan, and then her connections with Jabbar and Andy, um, which allowed her to buy the safety without power and the idol. And then she says how Jabbar and Andy could have given their coins to Kyle instead, but they gave it to her. Um, and then Sam is talking about how it's his first org. Um, and I kind of forgot the other things, but um I think um yeah, I think the information from the speeches was kind of what people already knew about the two. So Jabbar goes first with his question, and he says, hypothetically, if you nullify two of the three aspects of a winner, which factor would you want the jury to focus more on? And Kayla says she would keep the social aspect because she got coins to survive and the connection with Evan was important. And then Sam says he would keep Outlast because he didn't have many people looking after him and he had to make a lot of decisions at Tribal. Um, yeah, when I originally listened to this, I did think Caleb probably picked like the the wrong aspect out of the three just because I felt like her strategic game was better. And I think other people noted that. Um, but I think Sam probably picked the most accurate for himself.
Yeah, I also like, I think with Kayla's game that even though, she chose to play chaotically or whatever, but there were several rounds where had she not won immunity or used an advantage, she would have gotten voted out. So I think her game was very dependent on that more so than like the social connections. I don't think they're as bad as Carly said they were. I just think Carly was rubbed the wrong way by her.
Mhm.
Um, but you can't be like completely connected to absolutely everyone. Um, but just the type of game she played, I think it was very dependent on winning some key immunities.
Oh, so would you, if you were her, would you say the out, it would be outplay in that case? Or
Yes, because I think you could like the advantages and the physical, like not necessarily physical, like the immunities and the advantages I think were very important, although I don't, in my experience, that's what juries care the least about. So I, even though that's what I think was probably the strongest part of her game, I don't know if that's the one to speak the most about. So yeah, in that case,
yeah, then it could be a good idea to at least speak on something that people think is a little weaker.
so maybe it wasn't so bad to talk about social, because it was important for her and like she was given a lot of coins and like Kyle had a pretty similar game, but he didn't have the same type of connections that she did.
Mhm.
And I think Kyle was protected by her social connections.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe
So,
she could say social and like link the social more to some of the advantages and stuff. Um,
mhm.
Vogel's question was about asking the contestants to make him feel good about voting for them. And then Kayla says, if I lose this game because I didn't stroke your ego, so be it. I didn't need you clearly, and that's why I'm sitting here. I thought that I don't think I would have the courage to pull off that type of answer.
No, I just don't talk to people that way.
Mhm.
So I thought that was a little shocking. Um, Especially in a final tribal. So like I'm su I don't know, I'm surprised that didn't put more people off, although I think his question put people off. So in a way, maybe people kind of liked it.
Yeah, I think yeah, I feel like if if the juror is not particularly popular, you could probably get away with it and it's kind of funny.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it was entertaining for sure.
Yeah. So Sam answers how Vogel was calling the shots and he was admiring the game that Vogel was playing and it was scary to him. So yeah, that's more of the answer that is expected, I think.
Yeah, yeah, like a political answer. Like,
Mhm. Andy uh asks about how there's chaotic moments in the game, and he asks what was your favorite chaotic moment that you instigated. And Sam answers that he didn't need to play a chaotic game, um, and they didn't expect his idol at 10. But overall, he doesn't feel like he wanted or needed to play a chaotic game. Um, Given that the question is about a chaotic moment, do you think you would try to come up with some answer or give like a non-answer if you didn't play chaotic?
I think the way I would have answered that is explain why I don't like to play chaotically. Like it doesn't work for my personality. It's just a good way to get voted out. In my opinion, like I don't think it's good gameplay. I don't think it's anything to brag about. Um, is it fun to watch? Absolutely. Does it occasionally work somehow? Yes. And when it does, like that's extra fun. But like, do I think that's like a smart way to play? Not really, unless like there's no other option. So like if you're like on the bottom and there's no way else, no other way out, then causing chaos amongst people, sure, that can help get you out of a hole. But like to come in and want to play a chaotic game to me is not something to like, I don't know.
I think that's a good answer um because you're trying to win the game, so like just because you didn't have a chaotic moment that you created doesn't mean that you don't deserve to win the game. So you could frame it
Mhm.
more like you're too good for that because you were like
Right.
in such a good position maybe.
Like for Sam, it wouldn't make sense for him to start causing chaos because then people would have just voted him out. They would have been like, whoa, like what is he doing?
Yeah. Kayla says that she was interested in causing chaos in this game and she was inspired by Kyle. Um, and her moment that she picks is the final five vote, and she says how like the non-chaotic thing would have just been to vote out Kyle, but she decided to pitch to Sam to get Sam to vote out one of Evan or Carly. So that was the chaotic moment that she picked.
I
Um,
thought she could have gone a little further into that and said like kind of because of causing all that chaos, there was so many eyes on Evan and a lot of heat on Evan in the next round that that was going to be hard for him to get out. So even if she wasn't necessarily successful, I think it kind of set the stage for the next round for him to be like, ah. And she might have even had an argument for him over her had she not won immunity, like say Sam wins immunity or something.
yeah. Yeah, I think because of this chaos, maybe it plants the seed that
Hmm.
Carly and Evan are still a duo that needs to be taken out.
Hmm.
So yeah, Yap asks about an instance where you were able to use information that you received. And Sam says that one piece of information he got was back in the original Argento tribe. Um, he um, he got information from people that he wouldn't have been voted out if they went to tribal, and it seemed like that tribe was willing to vote out Vogel. So he used this information in the merged tribe to tell the old Oro tribe that the Argento tribe might be willing to vote for Vogel. I thought this was a pretty good response. Since the other tribe at merge would be looking for a way to survive, and if Sam's kind of able to provide a name that people are more likely to be on board with, that would be a good use of the information.
Yeah, I think so too, because a lot of times I see people like when they're in a minority, they're just targeting the wrong person. It's like if they could just target the right person, they might be able to convince the right people to make the move. But um, yeah, I think that's a good answer.
Um, Kayla says that her best use of the information was when she went to Vogel and kind of asked him about the plan with the idol and the nullifier when the plan was actually from Carly. Um, I thought this was I remember that in the episode, and I feel like it was pretty effective because Vocal was still somewhat part of that conversation also, and I think she could get some information out of him after based off of what his response is. But I
Hmm.
guess because that whole plan ended up not being that significant, I don't know if I would bring that up as my answer now.
Yeah, it's also hard to think of specific examples on the spot.
Yeah, that's true. Kyle asks, what do you think was the issue in Final Five? Like, what could Kyle have done to stay in the game? And Sam says that at that tribal, he didn't want to be perceived as making someone else's move, so he decided to take out a big threat, which was Kyle. And then Kayla says that she would have loved to be at the end with Kyle and brings up how she thinks that Sam is taking a lot of credit for votes. Um, do you think in these with these types of questions it's better to like emphasize that you did want the person out to show intentionality, or do you think it's better to hide how much you wanted them out so maybe they're not as bitter?
Um, I think people like honesty and intentionality in gameplay. Obviously, not everybody, every juror is different, but I think in general, honesty and intentionality is respected, rather than just, like own your game. People always say that, so I think it works.
Um, Evan asked Kayla like why did she decide to go after him rather than Carly, and she says that Evan played the better game. Um, I would agree with that. But I guess Carly is the next juror, so I don't know how clear I would be if that's my honest opinion. Because like you could get his vote and then lose the other person.
Right. So I think in that case, maybe she could have like complimented him and like highlighted the ways that he was good and kind of just not say much about Carly, like to not put her down, but just like, hey, you did this and this, and that was scary to me.
Yeah, and maybe bring up his immunity win since that is more of a legitimate concern that doesn't really mean the other person's game was worse. Um
Right.
So yeah, Carly says how she didn't see Kayla's social game as the strong suit. So she's referring back to Jabbar's question. And she asks, when did Kayla tell her the truth in this game? And Kayla says that she didn't really tell Carly the truth, and it was because she was scared of Carly's relationship with Evan. Um, and she had this relationship with Evan to protect each other's number ones, but she didn't really know what his alliance would want to do. And then Carly was one of the last people she talked to. So there wasn't really much truth to share at that point. And then Carly's question to Sam was the opposite. So, like, when was one time that he lied to her, and he brings up the idol that he didn't tell people about.
Mhm. I think this is a part where maybe had Kayla been honest with Carly at the final three that she was gonna vote her out, that could have helped save, and she could have said that, be like, I was honest with you at final three, blah blah blah, you know. But instead she's always just kind of kept her at a distance, and you can see um bitterness from that,
Yeah.
from Carly.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like, I think it's kind of a hard, it's hard to answer because sometimes on the jury people are like, I'm okay with lying, but not to the extent that you lied. And
Right.
it's kind of hard to explain why you had to go to that extent if the juror feels like it was too much. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, I think probably the overall, I guess probably the lying in the game, in addition to being the one being voted out at three, probably contributes to why Carly votes the way she does. Um,
Hmm.
so then at the end, Simona asks a question, and she's asking what people's favorite part of the game was, and it seems like both answers are related to the immunity challenges. Um, so yeah, we get to the final vote, and Kayla gets the majority of the votes except for Carly, and Kyle gives his two votes to Kayla.
Hmm. Yeah, I felt that was a pretty predictable outcome, I should say. Um, I think both of them could have sold their games a little better, but also, I mean, we're not all professional speakers, and you're tired. You've like being on the spot, and sometimes you don't even like really realize like the greatness in yourself or the things that you did until later. You've had like more time to reflect on it or whatever. Um, so I think overall they did pretty good. I think Sam could have made a stronger case for himself, but um, in the end, the people like flashy games. So it's really hard to be the under the radar type person at the end against somebody who's flashy and beat them, because people just like flashy games.
Yeah. Do you think you would approach the final tribal differently if it was a mini versus a long game? Because I guess in a mini people are tired, so even if you have this amazing speech, people might not want to hear it. So would you change it up, or would you still give the same length or quality of speech?
I think if speeches are too long, like people don't want to listen to it, people don't care. I think it's more like for me, Sam could have maybe talked about like why Kayla's chaotic and risky gameplay wasn't good gameplay. Like it happened to work out, but she was lucky. He could try to frame it that way. Whereas he was like playing smartly by being under the radar, like having the information that he needed. I don't know, did he vote correctly most of the time?
Yeah, I think he should have emphasized the voting correctly, um,
Hmm.
because I think I'm the type of jury member that would value that, because like especially in a mini where everyone's running around, like it's not
Hmm.
trivial to vote in the majority because um you have to at least talk to enough people to know what the real plan is. So I think I would value that. And maybe he could bring up maybe that the the idol and the challenge advantage situation from earlier, like with the challenge advantage, he helped that tribe win. So he was able to build more relationships, and he's like the last surviving member of that tribe. So
Hmm.
yeah, maybe focusing on voting correctly and like being in the know.
hmm Yeah, yeah, like I said, I still don't know if it would be enough because people really like it's impressive to watch someone who's always on the verge of getting voted out and like keep getting out of it. It's like it's fun to watch. It's like wow, it's impressive. So that's just hard to beat. But I really like respect the under the radar games because I feel like it takes more like self-control and intentionality to I mean, if you're intentional, like maybe just the way your personality is or whatever makes you fly under the radar. But if
Mhm.
you're intentionally like staying quiet and passing information or like, trying to keep your threat level down, like that's intentional and that's smart to me. And like, well, making the connections, but also it's a little tougher in a mini. You can sell those under the radar games, I think, better in a long game, but even still, like flashy is almost always wins over that almost. Unless yeah, long games are different.
Yeah. So yeah, now we have some awards for the season. Um, so we can start off with the villain of the season. So
hmm
this one goes to Andy V and Kayla. Andy V probably because he wants to be a villain. um,
hmm
and then I guess with his final jury question
hmm
it shows a little bit of villainousness. And then I think Kayla's chaoticness is also a bit villainous too.
Yeah, I think so. I think just being the type of person that'll throw anything out there or anyone out there to try to get out of being the vote, like I think that does classify as a villain, but it's like super entertaining to watch,
Mhm.
and I'm here for it.
So hero of the season, we have Carly and Sam. I think mostly because they both played primarily loyal games. And I guess yeah, and then I guess with Sam kind of like more of an underdog story. Um,
hmm
so yeah, that's why I think they're the hero of the season. Um, Best move of the season. So my best move of the season was Evan forcing the fire making at Final Four. I think that's really impressive, especially since I feel that he should have just been voted out. But the fact that he had like enough of a relationship to get fire making, I think is really impressive. And had he won that challenge, like he would have survived a vote that he probably shouldn't have survived. And I was just impressed with the fact that he was able to earn that chance.
hmm Um, yeah, I would say the using the safety without power to remove uh, Carly, therefore making one less vote, giving him the opportunity to both get rid of the idle nullifier and ensure that he had the numbers if he flips. I think that was great.
Mhm. So the next award is the best use of an advantage. So this one, I think Kayla getting the safety without power and the idol to buy 2 rounds of safety. Um, I think that's really impressive. To be able to be safe for 2 rounds. And then Sam getting the challenge advantage and the idol in the same episode was also a good strategy because um I know that his tribe did suspect he might have an idol, but I think that type of strategy could definitely work in another scenario. So I thought that was a good play.
hmm Yeah, I also think with Kayla's using like the safety without power and the idol, using the safety without power instead of the idol the round that she did because of the idol nullifier was like the right decision. But
Mhm.
yeah, I would go back to what I said before about the Evans use of the safety without power.
Yeah, I thought Kayla picking the safety without power first and then using the idol was smart also because when she used the safety without power, Kyle was immune, so her vote wouldn't have screwed over, or her not having a vote wouldn't have screwed him over. So,
Hmm.
best duo, we have two, so Kayla and Kyle, and then Evan and Carly. Yeah, it's always nice to see like a duo stick together from the beginning of the game. Like I enjoy
Yeah,
watching that.
I like that too. And like that's personally how I like to play as well. It's just for me, I work better when I have someone that I can trust and bounce ideas off of. And I'm a big believer that you get farther together. Like,
So yeah, the next award is who we would most like to see in a DCP long game. So we each have two people. Um, my first person is Kyle. I'm just curious to see how he would do in a long game since this was his first game. Um, and I think that he would do pretty well in a long game. And then the second person is Simona. I think in this game she had a lot of people who wanted to work with her, um, and I think that would play out well in a long game, because I think the under the radar strategy is appreciated more.
I think so too. And I thought I was thinking when someone was playing that she's playing more of a long game and a mini, like long game style game. And I could definitely see her going far or even winning in a long game. But I'd I feel like well, Andy C seemed fun, so I'd be interested to see what he would do. And also Evan, I I don't know how org experienced he is. I think on the image it said intermediate. Um, so I don't know if I should choose two people that have already played orgs. Like I would be interested in Carly as well because she's this was her first game and she's like besties with Carrie and
um, Most social, Carly and Evan. um I think they both had like a lot of people wanting to work with them, and I think in their original tribe I feel like there were a lot of people who had them as like one of their top people. And I think that's part of the reason why they were able to make it so far in the game.
I think so too. I think for most of the game they had the most like social capital.
Most strategic, I have Kayla. I think that she used the advantages really well throughout the game, and I think one of the impressive moments she had was in the pre-jury when she got at, got Kyle to play her idol on her, so she would be kind of safe from the fact that she had lied about it. Um,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say Evan because the like he was laying the social groundwork earlier in the game to be able to make strategic moves later. Like in the earlier rounds, connecting with Kayla and like really laying that groundwork, like that's strategy too to me.
mhm. Yeah, I think it was pretty impressive how like he was able to have the real like have the relationship with Kayla and kind of work together for a while because sometimes people people that are kind of threatening like him will just get voted out a lot earlier.
Hmm.
Gone Too Soon. We have Rob and Emily. I think that both of them could have made it further if they survived the rounds that they were voted out.
I think so too. And like I've played with Rob before, and like once you get talking to him, he's really fun, and like I think he could have, had he had a little more time and made it through that round. Like he was just in a really bad position. Like that sucks at the beginning of a mini. There's like really nothing you can do unless someone else is like really awful. Um, but yeah, I would have liked to see him go further in a mini.
Yeah, I guess my personal bias could be Jabbar also. I because I know that in the games he normally plays, like a lot of people will want him out really early, but it didn't seem like people really wanted him out for his threat level in this game. So it would have been interesting to see if he could just survive longer if he didn't get voted out early merge. Um,
Hmm.
and then we have our host favorites. So my host favorite goes to Kayla, mostly because I just enjoyed the way that she was playing the entire time, and it's a lot different from how I usually play, so it was entertaining to me. Um, and I particularly liked her answer to Andy V at the final tribal.
She's spicy. Yeah. I guess not surprisingly, I'll say Evan. But that's just like more of the type of game that like I like to see people play. It just like it's a smart way to play for me if you can manage the threat level, which in the end is what got him. But it's hard when you got feisty Kayla there calling him out. So
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think he could do like super well in another game. And maybe some of these people are in the long game that has already concluded. So I'm looking
oh,
forward to that.
that would be interesting. Yeah.
So yeah, we definitely enjoyed recapping this season and hope you all enjoyed watching. Um, Yeah, final thoughts on the season. I thought it was really fun to see um like all the advantages and seeing new faces. So that was
Hmm.
definitely fun for me.
Yeah. I always like how DCP has a lot of newbies playing. Like it's a mixture. It's not just all people who only play orgs all the time. So it's refreshing and entertaining.
Well, thanks for watching us this season and maybe we will see you all next season. Bye bye.
Bye.